Another episode here of Getting There with Goss, where we talk about the career journeys of media members, coaches, athletes, business owners, and more. This one is, as I usually say, this one is maybe the nearest and dearest to my heart. It is my pal Mike Acchione joining us, a groomsman in my wedding. Now, people are going to hear this and be like, this is complete bias. How dare Goss bring his buddy on the pot? I'm telling you, the story he's going to tell as a lifelong Syracuse fan is truly the best underdog story in the history of Syracuse athletics. There's a tease out of the gates for you, Ack. A lot to live up to out of the start. But first, for those who aren't familiar with you, tell us a little bit about who you are, where you grew up, and what you wanted to be as a kid. 5, 6, 7 years old. What was your dream job, and was it the same when you were 18 years old?
Yeah, I mean, every little kid's dream job is to be in the NFL, right? Yep. So, growing up, born and raised in Syracuse, lived in Salve my whole life and currently still do. Can't get away. Teach at Salve, coach at Salve. So growing up, I love football. Good old Gaddis Pop Warner. Played there for, since I was 5 years old, right up to high school. And then, every kid's dream, you want to be in the NFL. Obviously, it's not easy to do that, as everybody knows that plays. But from out of high school, a huge Syracuse fan. I didn't want to go anywhere else. Once they gave me a preferred walk-on spot, I had to accept it. That's what I love. That's where I wanted to be. Love the school, love the academic part of it, and obviously the football part of it.
There's so many stories in between that moment from playing Pop Warner to getting to Syracuse. But I think for perspective here, again, for those who aren't familiar with your family, you are, and this is maybe an understatement knowing you so well, a football family kid. There's no doubt. Your father played for the late Bobby Bowden and also played for Syracuse. Your brother played for Michigan State. Kind of take us through their careers and how much of an influence your dad and your brother had on trying to play football at the next level.
Yeah, so start off with my dad. He's Salve boy. Actually went down to Florida State and played for a year, like you said, under Coach Bowden, and got a little too warm, I guess, for him down in Florida. Not used to that Florida weather. But ended up coming back on, walked on at Syracuse, ended up with a scholarship, and he has the stat of making the first career tackle in the Carrier Dome.
Hey!
So he played in the last game at Archibald and in the first game in the Dome, and he was on the kickoff team for SU. That for opening kickoff in the Dome, he made a tackle. He's got the first tackle in the Dome.
Look at that. Gary Acchione. Fill that out on the stat sheet for the Syracuse fans. Gary Acchione, not just alphabetical, first tackle in the Carrier Dome.
But he's taught me a lot. He taught me the whole, working hard, work hard, get what you deserve, walk on. I learned a lot from him. And then same with my brother. He walk on at Michigan State as a wide receiver. Got his playing time as well over at Michigan State. Just talking to him throughout high school, just growing up, going through the same stuff that he did, just taught me a ton of just staying focused, working hard, and good things are going to happen.
In your senior year at Salve High School, for those who don't know the Salve area, if you're listening from outside of Central New York, that's a Class B school, traditional power league championships, especially powerful under the Hall of Fame coach Al Marrone, 200-plus victories in his career. You graduate in 2007, again, fall of 07, graduation in class of 2008. And you had the stat, which is still remarkable to think about 10-plus years now. You're a Division I wide receiver, but the stat was that you were on the only high school team in New York State, a team that got to the semifinals of the sectionals, that didn't throw a touchdown pass the entire season.
Zero.
How difficult was it for you to get your stuff out to colleges? Because I know your most standout game ended up being the All-Star game, the Arcaro Classic.
Right. So, yeah, it's tough. I had more kick return touchdowns and punt return touchdowns than I did receiving touchdowns my senior year, because I had zero my senior year receiving touchdowns. But, yeah, it was tough. Salve is just that ground and pound football team back in the day. We had excellent running backs. And I did more stock blocking on the outside than I did actually catching the football. But, I loved every part of Salve. I wouldn't take any of it back. And then the All-Star game came and I had over 100 yards receiving and like 9 catches. I'm like, wow, this is what it feels like to actually catch footballs in a game. I had a great quarterback in that All-Star game, Jay Crass from South Jeff. He was awesome. And that game actually brought some exposure out to some coaches, sending that film out. I think a majority of my recruiting came though in my junior year, going into my senior year that summer, going to football camps. I did really well at the SU camp, so I just got my name out there. And obviously, as everybody knows, you go to a big time D1 football camp, and there's not just Syracuse coaches there. There's coaches from Cortland to Albany to Cornell to Colgate. You know, they're all over the place. So just getting my name out at those college camps, that's what I think really was my biggest recruiting tool, is just having really, really great summer camps, especially that going into my senior year. So that's pretty much how my recruiting trail went. I was always in contact with coaches at SU throughout my senior year, and once they offered me that preferred walk-on spot, there was no looking back. If I had went to a smaller school, I still to this day don't know where that would be. I did get accepted to John Carroll University, same league as Mount Union out in Ohio. And for those that don't know, I was, pretty decent track athlete in high school as well.
I was going to say, Eck, I had the graphic ready for you. I said, I think you're being modest. Like when you say like you stood out at these camps, what happens is a coach looks down at the clock and sees your 40 time. You beat me to it. The effective track, right, man. How much did it help? 7th grade, I think you were on varsity.
Yeah, so I started track varsity level at Solvay in 7th grade. Coach Schutz, he's to this day he's still teaching me things. But he got me in great shape, especially 7th grade to 12th grade. He was a major influence on me, especially in high school. It's kind of crazy. I didn't really accept an offer from SU as a preferred walk-on until like almost after about end of June, our senior year. It actually came after we took 2nd in the state in our 4x4 relay at Buffalo and track. And you can't teach speed. And that's what they always say at these camps in college. So running a really good 40 time at these camps definitely helped. Definitely wasn't a bad thing. So yeah, running track was definitely a huge success for me for football. And everybody out there that don't do anything in the winter and the spring and you play football, run track, because that's what the best thing to do is.
Yeah, that's Coach Acchione giving his advice now.
That's right.
Coaching ranks. That's right. You touched on recruiting. There are a lot of things that go through, whether you're going to be a scholarship, a walk-on. Maybe I'm wrong about this, but it feels like there's been a true evolution in recruiting. And maybe you feel the same way, that when we were going through the process, you at a different level than me, if you told somebody you got an offer or you were going to commit to a Division II or Division III school, with no disrespect to those institutions, you'd get laughed at because there really wasn't money to it. You'd be like, okay, the money is a D1 offer. But what's happened over the last 15 years is that if you're a teenager and you say you get an offer or you're committing, it's harmless. Like all it is promoting the school and promoting a student in high school. Like there's nothing wrong with kids, right? Twitter, Facebook, and TikTok and everything else people are doing announcements on. You did get to go through the recruiting process from D1 to D3. So you got to see like this whole evolution of recruiting.
It's insane what social media alone has done in recruiting. It's like coaches are pushing kids to put this on social media because they want to know, like, say you're even as D3 to D1, a guy from SU that puts it on there, those coaches want Rutgers coaches to see it. They want, Albany coaches. They want Penn State coaches. They want all those schools around here to see that. And it goes down all the way to D3. If you're committing to, say, Ithaca, you definitely want the Cortland coaches to see it. You want like Hobart coaches. You want all St. John Fisher coaches. I mean, so social media right now with recruiting is just a huge, it's not even close to being the same as it used to be, 14 years ago, which is insane to me that I just said 14 years ago. That's where we were. But
weren't we just out in Rochester? Come on now, it's St. John Fisher. I'm glad there weren't phones back then, though, for us four.
There
Me,
were
you, Mike Marnez, and Ben
there.
Carl.
That's right. That was a great recruiting trip.
Yeah, it was.
Over to St. John Fisher. But yeah, I think social media is just taking off to a different level with recruiting right now. And it's I mean, colleges are hiring like people just to run their social media for recruiting. And that's an actual like job for colleges now, which is incredible.
It's amazing to think this how crazy college sports has gone in just that small, less than 15-year window. So you decide you're going to Syracuse. You're going to be a part of the Orange. You're going to stay at home, play for the hometown team. There's always, it feels like for any college athlete, that welcome to Division I or welcome to the new level of football. For you in particular as a walk-on, what was that moment like? What was that, oh my God, this is Division I football and I've officially arrived?
Yeah, so for me it was walking to workouts the first day and all 5'11", 150 pounds of me walking into the weight room and watching guys lift twice my body weight on the bench. I'm just like, what is going on? And it's definitely a complete different game than the high school level, and that's at any college level. It was great to see. It was great to be a part of. It actually pushed me to where I should be, or where I wanted to be. I mean, there was definitely some welcome to college hits as well. I played with some awesome athletes at Syracuse. I learned from great guys, great coaches. But that first day was like you question yourself, like what am I actually doing here? But in the end, it's something that I would never take back.
Well, those things you're talking about, question yourself, because it's difficult, because your name for the first time in your life may not be the top of the depth chart. You've got to find your spots. You've got to find out just to know teammates who have compensation to play at the next level. And that's what you're fighting for every single day. For perspective at this point, what is that workout and lifestyle for you at that point? What time are you getting up? How often? What is the life of a Division I athlete like?
It's a full-time job and some. So you learn so much just about time management and just getting through stuff that you're just not used to getting through. I mean, a typical day during the season is a little bit different, but usually it's like a 6 a.m. workout, even during the season. Go to class, come back for practice, go to meetings. I mean, it's a 6 a.m. to sometimes 9 o'clock days. And in preseason, it's a grind. I mean, those are 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. days. In the off season, probably one of the hardest things to do, because you're working out, you're practicing, you're not even in season. You're like, what am I doing? I'm not playing any games. I'm not doing, you're not doing this for a game. You're just doing it to get better. But we were up at 6 a.m. I'll never forget it. Junior and senior year, 6 a.m. in February, outside with 5 inches of snow, running through drills, and at that point, we're just like, what is going on here? But it tests your mental toughness the most, and that's what I think a majority of football is. So mental toughness, getting through it. It's a mental game. It's definitely a physical game, but it's also a mental game. But waking up that early, freezing, and we had the rule, if one person forgets their long sleeve shirts, guess what? You're not wearing them. Everybody's in a t-shirt. And that's happened. It happens. 6 a.m. You're outside. It's 4 degrees out. We're in central New York. There's 5 inches of snow. You go take a drink of water and the water's frozen. It was incredible. But again, it taught you life lessons that you just can't get back.
Syracuse football at this point is going through a program shifting through the years, because this is post Greg Robinson, where it's the worst stretch in the history of Syracuse football. Doug Marrone is your head coach at this point during your college career. What was it like playing for Coach Marrone? How would you describe his style with your teammates?
He was hard-nosed for sure. He didn't take any crap from anybody. He was just a in-your-face type of guy, and that's what they needed at the time. My freshman year when we had Coach Robinson, we went 2-10, beat Notre Dame. Great win, last game of the season. And then we made that switch, and he came in and just totally changed the culture of the whole program. I think I want to say between 20 and 25 kids left the team actually during that time. But he had success. So he was definitely, this is the only really thing he could have done, and they picked the right guy for it to do it.
I don't want to skip over 3 years of your college career because there's so many stories and teammates and moments, and I feel awful doing that to your former teammates. But I'm just going to hit the kind of like the fast forward button on here because I know some people want to hear this part. They're the most interested in how the hell your senior year came together. So let's start at the beginning. Going into this, your senior year, you're not on scholarship. But you,
correct.
Again, if this was 2021, you probably would have had the viral moment, right, where they gave you the scholarship.
Yeah.
So take us through when you went from a non-scholarship player to a scholarship player.
Yeah, so going into my senior year, I was not on scholarship, going into camp. And then we have a team meeting and are told that one of our receivers are suspended for the season. And I'm like, oh boy, well, this isn't good. And he's a starter, he's a great player. So then I'm thinking like, okay, well, it's time to step up because, you know, I'm a senior. I know the playbook inside now. I can write down every play that we had and tell you every position, what everybody was doing. You know, this college football D1, you're studying your playbook in the middle of classes. So that's pretty much what you had to do. So, you know, I was going through camp and I was getting a lot of reps with the twos. And then I'll never forget it. It was actually Fan Fest. My senior year, we're going through a 2-minute drill, and our receivers coach, who was one of the best coaches I've ever been around in my entire life. Learned a ton from him. Coach Rob Moore, he's the wide receivers coach right now at the Titans. He's an awesome guy. He goes, all right, Ack, you're in. Starting group with a 2-minute drill. And I'm like, okay, well, here we go.
Here we go.
He didn't really, like, he had full trust in me. He knew that I knew everything going on in that 2-minute drill. We had a couple of younger guys that just weren't there yet, that just came in. So he knew that he knew what I was doing. He knew I was always going to do the right thing while I was in the field. Caught a couple passes in the 2-minute drill. I think that's when the coaches kind of really just looked at each other and were like, all right, this kid's actually, we can do something with this kid. And then a couple of days later, I got to walking into workouts during preseason camp, and our strength and conditioning coach comes up to me and goes, "Coach wants to see you in his office." I'm like, oh God, like that's never a good sign. you get sent to Coach Marrone's office, and it's never, you always expect the worst. So I'm like, now I'm running through my head like, was I late to anything? Like, what was I late to breakfast? Did I skip a meeting on accident? Like, what's going on here? So I'm running through all those options, and I go sit down in his office, and he says, well, this is what we got going on. He says, you are officially on the travel list. And I was like, oh, let's go. Like senior year, we're going to LA, we're going to Pittsburgh, we're going to New Orleans, we're going to all these great freaking cities to play. And I'm like, that's awesome. And he says to me, he goes, oh yeah, he goes, I got to tell you something else. He goes, you're going to be on full scholarship this year. And then I just I couldn't feel my entire body. Like I was just like, I just went completely numb, and I honestly was speechless. I didn't say a word for about a solid 5-10 seconds. And, you know, I thanked him. It was a great moment. I'll never forget it. And then he told me to go up to see our offensive coordinator, who was Nate Hackett at the time, who is now the OC at Green Bay, with the Packers, with Aaron Rodgers. So I went up there, and he just told me, he says, you deserve this. You're doing everything right. You know the entire playbook. I can put you anywhere. We got full faith in you. We trust you. And, you know, just hearing those things is just like everything I went through the last 3 years, like this is all worth it just for this moment. So it was awesome. It was really cool.
It's so cool. I'm getting chills hearing it as your friend, like hearing the story.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, man. And even like younger people who hear this, they may not remember what the time was like in the fall of 2010 and 2011, even 09. Like this was a point for a lot of families where lives started to change financially. The stock market was crashing. The housing market was crashing. Yeah. Your dad took a job out at Bradford High School where he coached Melvin Gordon and Trey Waynes, where he's a Central New York guy, but financially that was the right move for your family. You're a walk-on who's just looking for ways in which that when you're post-career, you're not going to the NFL. You just want to find out how you can start your career and to get that financial boost for your family. And even like you just said, people don't realize, like, at football, not everybody's on the bus. Like, you don't get to go to the away games with your teammates. And you saying that, like, that's enough for you. So here you go. Your scholarship, you're playing, you're hoping to play.
Yeah.
Take us through those first early games until we get to Rhode Island. Because if my memory's right, Rhode Island is not game 1.
It's game 2.
Yep.
So Wake Forest was game 1. Wake Forest comes in and, they were a good team. We ended up beating them in overtime. We came back in the fourth quarter and beat them. But he just said, be ready. Just be near me, be near the offense during timeouts. You can be going in at any time. So I did not get any reps for that Wake Forest game, which I'm not complaining. I'm happy to just be in the mix. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So that week going into Rhode Island, it was a team meeting. And we went, it was the Monday of the Rhode Island week. And he says, all right, guys, we're in our offensive meeting. He says, we're putting new packages in this week. And we're putting in a empty set. And goes through the receivers. You're here, you're here, you're here. Then he calls my name and says, and you're playing this position if we go empty. And I'm like, ooh, what? I'm like, let's go. Like, yes. So I was like, we practiced it all week in practice. I was super pumped about it. I was like, I got to get in this game. Like, there's no way we're not putting this in this week, and we're just not going to run any of it. So yeah, going in the Rhode Island game, I was ready. I was studying, and like I tell you, I brought my playbook to every class. It was just it's a given. I did well in classes, but you got to balance classes and football. So,
So the Rhode Island game happens, kickoff happens, you're waiting for it, and sure enough, the number gets called, and it's not the fourth quarter. It's not the fourth quarter.
It's not. I believe it was the second quarter, and they call it, 10 personnel, and I was like, oh boy, like, let's go. I'm in. Let's do this. And I'm lined up in the slot on the left-hand side, and the play that we had called, I was like, looking, like, obviously you go up on the line, you're kind of looking at defense, kind of what they're in, and I'm like, oh my God, this ball actually might come to me. Like, oh my God, if I'm reading this right, this ball might come to me. So I just had an easy, like, flat route right to the sideline. Our quarterback, Ryan Nassib, who was one of my good friends in college, just hit me in stride, and I got like 8 yards, and I was like, oh my God, I just caught a freaking pass in a college game. Like, this is nuts.
and that alone, by the way, could have been the end. Like, hey, I just played for my hometown team. It's an FCS opponent. It might have been D1 AA at this point in the early. Yeah, right? AA. So, look, you got on the field. You waited 3 years. It happened. Congratulations. What a great story. Yeah. Family's there. Your buddies are there. That could have been the end. Yeah, however, that's not the end of the story.
No.
So walk us through what happens in the fourth quarter. If you can remember the score, the time where this leads to, like I teased earlier in this interview, the greatest underdog story in Syracuse football history. So I like making you feel uncomfortable, my friend.
It's all good. It was the fourth quarter, and I'm thinking, like, all right, yeah, my day is done. Like, we didn't even come back to this the rest of the game. And the fourth quarter hits. I mean, there's like 6.5 minutes left in the game. And I'm like, just hopefully we win the game. It's a tie game. It's 14-14 at the time against a 1AA school that we should be, it shouldn't be tied right now. And all of a sudden I hear our personnel get called in. I'm like, my chin strap was off. Like, I wasn't even ready to go in. And they're yelling it. And I'm like, holy crap, like, buckle up, let's go. And I remember the play perfectly. I was lined up on the right-hand side. I was outside, and our slot guy was supposed to just do like a 5-yard out. And the way they've been playing was they were jumping that outside. So I'm like, all right, he's just going to dump it down to Dorian Graham was a slot receiver at the time. And I'm like, I just got to clear out this corner so that flat route's open. So I run a go route, and the guy jumps our out guy. So now Ryan's got nobody to throw the ball to, so he rolls out to the right. And I'm like, oh my God, like what's going on? And I turn around, did some scramble rules with him, typical practices every day. Brought my guy up like about 3 yards into the end zone, came back. As soon as I turned around, Ryan threw it low, exactly where he needed to be, go down and catch it. And as I caught it, I was laying in the end zone, and I was just like, what? I'm like, I just went blank again. I was like, I just went numb. I'm like, what just happened? I didn't want to get up. And it was just like one of those things where it was just like, I didn't know what to do. I didn't know who to give the ball to. I didn't like, do I keep the ball? Do I hand the ball off? And as it happened, everybody just rushed in, and it was something I'll never, one of those feelings that you just don't forget. I was just like, where's my parents? Who do I point to? Who do I didn't know what to do.
You're in a dream, man.
Yeah,
in a dream.
Everybody came up to me, and like it was all the guys that, you know, obviously I played with and have been with for 4 years there. They were all super excited for me, and it's so funny because the guy, the night before at the hotel, I actually roomed with Corey Yetzel. He's his dad's Randy Yetzel. He just resigned at UConn, and Corey's actually a tight ends coach at UConn. But we also had a guy, Lou Adazio, who Coach Adazio, you know, is a college coach as well. But he came up to me and goes, "Dude, you're going to score a touchdown tomorrow." And I'm like, "Dude, come on. Let's push brakes on a little bit here." And after it happened, I was like, I don't know how you called that one. Like, it was just like one of those things where you're just like, dude, I told you. And I was like, this is just wild.
There's a great article. We shared this on social media that Syracuse.com did about the game, where it talks about your family and their reaction and it actually happening. And you describing it again. I hope whatever your favorite team is, whether you're a Syracuse fan, a U-Albany fan, Hobart, wherever you're listening across New York State, or maybe even further than that, we're talking about a kid who grew up rooting on the Syracuse Orange as his favorite team, who just caught a game-winning touchdown. It literally is like Jimmy Valvano looking around for somebody to hug. Like, this actually happened.
That's exactly what.
Someone's going to wake me up, and I'm going to be, back in my place in Salve. Be like, all right, it's time to go to school. No, it actually really happened. So you guys take the lead in that game, and Ackett proves to be the game-winning touchdown.
We ended up winning 21-14, and ended up as a game winner. It was just like, it was incredible. It was just one of those things that just you dream about.
And then you got to do media. So now, like, all your teammates, right? What happened? All of a sudden, you're getting pulled in. Like, I got to do the press conference. I got to talk to Chet Davis, who you now know at CBS 6 was working for the Syracuse media at that point.
Yeah. So after the game, I'm like waving everybody up at 311 to come down. Like, all my friends up in 311. I was like, you guys got to come down. And as they're walking down, I'm getting dragged into the locker room by like coaches and by our media personnel that like, you got to get in the locker room. You got people like waiting for you. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, I'm not used to this. And so after the game, I'm in the locker room. I'm taking my shoulder pads, my jersey off, and I turn around. There's like 3 freaking phones and microphones in my face. I'm like, oh boy. And I was not ready for this. And then so afterwards, I got through all those, and they're like, all right, now you got to go to the TV interviews. So now I'm like, okay, I'm not used to this. Like, this is just something that I'm not used to. So I was walking down with Ryan Nassib, and they put you in this tiny room in the dome with 1,000 cameras in front of you, like lights just on you. It's about 150 degrees for everybody that knows the dome of pre-air conditioning. And so I'm already sweating. And I mean, it was awesome. It was an awesome experience. It was definitely nerve-wracking, but it happens. I was glad I was in that situation. It was just, again, one of those things you only just dream about that actually came true.
It happens. The walk-on hometown kid catches a game-winning touchdown at home. And what makes this story even more fairy tale insane, that was your final play in college.
Yeah.
How did that end up being what happened?
So to this day, I couldn't tell you. It was one of those things where, they went a different route with what our offense was gearing towards. We just put some different personnel, different things in as the weeks went on. But I mean, I can gladly say I played in 2 offensive plays at SU and I caught 2 passes. So 100% for me. I don't know who else can say that, but I mean, I would never take back my senior year. The next week we traveled out to USC, which was an awesome experience. And then we also played in the Superdome against Tulane. We went to Pittsburgh and played at Heinz Field. So it was like a dream season for me. Just one thing we didn't do was make it to a bowl game, which I wish we did, but it's just one of those things that happens. And I would definitely never take that season back.
I'm glad you have that attitude about that too, because there's a lot of other athletes who have had resentment and said, hey, I just caught a game-winning touchdown. You guys needed me. I made a big play. Why am I not playing more? It's my senior season. Your attitude was, I'm here to make the program better. I'm here to make my teammates better. I want to help us win, and whether that's balling out in practice or helping these younger guys learn the offense. So many other people, and I know you've known this for a decade now, that, by the way, saying that out loud both does make us feel old, that, look, you would probably trade that touchdown play for 15 plays or 20 plays in college because of that moment you have for the rest of your life.
Absolutely. I knew my role in that team, and like you said, I was helping younger kids develop. Just being that senior leader on that, especially with those wide receivers. I knew my role, and I wasn't a complainer. I made the team better, and that was my main reason I was there.
The week we're taping this, by the way, Syracuse Football is getting ready to take on UAlbany inside the Carrier Dome. We have that mix between an FBS, formerly 1AA FCS opponent. You made a huge play in a matchup like that. Give Syracuse Orange fans a reason to remember why the Orange football program, should not take a team like UAlbany lightly.
Yeah, I mean, I always said it. It's at any level, it's hard to win football games. It's not easy. You can't take any team lightly. You just can't do it. Especially UAlbany. I mean, they have this game circled on their schedule. Who doesn't want to come play in the Dome against a Division I opponent? I mean, it's just one of those things that they're going to come, they're going to give it their best, and hopefully SU just comes out and overpowers them, overmans them, and hopefully the game's not close. But you never know. I mean, you see it already this year. FCS schools going into FBS schools and winning. Jacksonville State, perfect example against Florida State last week. I mean, it happens, and they just can't take anybody lightly, which I don't think they will. I think the coaches will have them ready. So I'll be there. I'll be watching, and hopefully they come out with a big win.
I think most people's blood pressures in Central New York would be fine if a walk-on senior wide receiver doesn't have to catch a game-winning touchdown in the fourth quarter again. They'd be okay with that.
They would.
Usually I close these interviews asking the best advice to get where you are in your career. You're doing a great job coaching now at the high school level, but I feel as if we need to close with this advice for future athletes who want to get to your spot, formerly of Division I athlete status. What is your best advice that you could offer soon-to-be athletes who are trying to have that moment that you had to catch a game-winning touchdown for a team they grew up rooting for? Your best advice for walk-on athletes?
Yeah, so the main thing is just do your best, work hard. If your opportunity comes, you have to make the most of it. So with me, it's limited reps. So the reps that I did have, it's you better do something great, or who knows when you're going to get your next rep. That's the main thing. Don't take anything lightly. That's pretty much it. You should know your role on the team. Don't get frustrated. It takes time. Like you said earlier, a lot of these kids, especially even walk-ons, they're coming from high school where they don't come off the field. And then they go to a big time program and they're at the bottom of the list. That's really going to test your character and where you want to be and what you're really there for. You just have to dig deep, know your role, and just keep balling out every day and do your best. That's pretty much the best advice for walk-ons. Like I said, you just got to make the most of your opportunity, and when you do, only good things can happen.
Mike Acchione, my buddy, my groomsman I've known since I've been a little kid. I'm not saying this because I'm biased. He's better than Rudy Rudiger's story. Rudy didn't score a touchdown. Syracuse, I've been growing up with this program as a kid. I know I'm going to get my chops busted by all the UAlbany fans this week. That's fine. Just tell me a better story in Syracuse sports history than this underdog story from my pal Mike Acchione. Ack, I appreciate you reliving this one more time with me. Syracuse fans, at Tom Gaz, TOMG was easy on Twitter. Make sure to check out that old article we shared on social as well. I will see you Saturday. I'm going as a fan, so you and I will be celebrating a little different way, like our old early 20s. All right, my friend.
Yeah,
enjoy the game this weekend.
Before we head out, I got to show you one more thing.
Yeah, show me what you got. Hey, look at that game ball for those on the audio side. There's the game ball right there. Head over to our YouTube side and check it out. Michael Acchione, Rhode Island, Syracuse, the game ball still in a perfect spot.
You know it.
Love it, dude.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, catch you later, man. Go Salve.
Always. See you later.